Hello, my name is Ildiko, and first of all, the reason why I'm recording this on an audio in an audio format rather than a video format is that I'm pretty ill, and I just didn't want to make a video of myself like this. I hope you don't mind. So I was wondering what to say about myself if I met myself the first time, what was important about me. And I think it is that I never lost my smile. I never lost my sense of joy. I don't know if if you know what it is like living in a socialistic regime. The things that I remember, particularly at my early childhood, was not having. I remember my grandma making food and telling us that this is a bolognese sauce. And I remember feeling really odd that it tasted like really bad. And I was wondering what it was. And later it turned out that it was actually soy. It wasn't real meat because we couldn't get meat. She couldn't get meat. So, but I also remember that we ate crazy amounts of sweet stuff that my grandma made. As a compensation for all the really bad food that we otherwise ate. I remember eating a lot of tomato based sauce and food, tomato soup, like the bolognese sauce as well. And I remember eating a lot of potatoes and fried dough, which is a very odd food. It's bread dough that we don't bake but fry in oil. And eating a lot of milk-based products like yogurts and soured milk and things like that. The other things that I remember from my childhood are the smileless faces. Socialistic regime also means military regime. And I don't know if it's true for everywhere, but in my experience, military regimes tend to be overly serious. Citizens were not really allowed to develop themselves in any way. We were to become good sheep who would serve a certain purpose. We were not allowed to develop into self-sufficient individuals, but were trained to be soldiers. Like the song goes, just a brick in the wall. Even though I think that socialism and communism are fantastic ideas, they're still utopistic. The system stopped us from asking questions and discouraged us to look for our own answers. And with all that, I think most of us became smileless. And the truth is that I think I became smileless, joyless. When I look at photos from my early childhood, I see myself always smiling and being kind of a happy bunny, regardless of the circumstances. And when I look at photos of my early 20s, by then my smile seemed to have disappeared. And I think I just became just one of the neurotics that this kind of society can produce. During my university years, I studied philosophy and theology and psychology. And my studies started to stir something inside of me that made me start asking questions and looking for answers about my own existence. I think it's also important to know that religions and religious studies were banned in Hungary and in any other socialistic countries. We were to look at our leaders as God or gods, and they wanted to prevent us from looking for our own greatness and God's indwelling presence within ourselves. So by the time I went to university, the Berlin Wall had come down. We are in the early 90s. The revolution had taken place, so we were more, I don't know, we could see a different world, and we could study different things that we couldn't before. And I'm really grateful that I went to university not quite right after high school, a few years later, that allowed me to study things I couldn't have earlier. So as a result of that stirring that started during my university years, I was training to be a teacher. I realized that I needed more, and not only more answers, but I needed to find the way to recover who I am, recover that girl I saw on the pictures, when I was like 3 years old. And I needed to reconnect with whatever that was that made me smile. And this is how my greater journey began, which I will tell you later. Finally, let me just say this, that looking back now, I can see that the joyful nature of myself, the smile, that in some ways the essence of who I am has never actually disappeared. It is true that I spent years not smiling too much because of circumstances, because of challenges and difficulties I went through. But looking back now, I know for a fact that it has always been there. I never stopped being the joyful and smiley creature that who I am, the essence of who I am. Thank you so much for listening.